U.S. Capitol of looked like law enforcement with their arms drawn. We're actually looking at video right now of these anarchists interaction and these people who were involved in this insurrection. They broke the glass in the United States Capitol, and now they are climbing through the window. This happened moments ago on the grounds of the United States Capitol. This is likely what you're hearing inside, and this is the reason you said that you were told to shelter in place, moved to an undisclosed location. How much of this can you hear and even see, or at least could you, when you were still on the House floor?
Well, when we left the House floor, we were taken out through a door where they had tactical teams keeping protesters on their bellies, literally outside the House doors. So people had gotten to the doors of the chamber. Windows had been broken. And as I said, when we left, there were officers with their guns drawn and pointed at the doors, obviously indicating that they thought there was a threat about to come through. Anyway, my colleagues and I right now are a little shell-shocked. You might imagine emotions are running pretty high right now. This is something that didn't need to happen. And it's something that shouldn't have happened. There's a lot to take stock of here in terms of how we got to this place, what President Trump said and did to set this off, and quite frankly, how the Capitol could be so vulnerable. I've been working in this building for a while now, and I've always assumed that when things got ugly, they could push a button and doors would be sealed and everything would be fine. That obviously turns out not to be the case. It doesn't feel like we're through it yet, but we've got a lot to learn from what happened today.
Well, stay safe. Let us know if you see and hear anything more, and we appreciate you giving us an update. Jake?
Congressman Himes, Congressman Gallagher, Congressman Kinzinger, thank you so much for your time. Stay safe for you and your staffs. I want to bring in Pamela Brown right now because, Pamela, we're only seeing some of the violence on the outside of the Capitol building. You have more information about what's going on inside in this armed insurrection, in this attempted coup by President Trump and his supporters. Tell us more.
Well, to tell you just how out of control this has gotten, Jake, a woman is now in critical condition after being shot in the chest on the Capitol grounds. This is according to two sources familiar with the matter. The sources couldn't provide any further details on the circumstances of the shooting, but sources I've spoken to and to my colleague Noah Gray are telling us that there were shots fired there on the Capitol grounds, and they additionally add that a woman is now in critical condition after being shot in the chest on Capitol grounds. Again, we don't know the circumstances surrounding that, but that just tells you right there how much this has escalated, how quickly it's escalated, and how out of control this has gotten. I'm told from a local source on the ground, a law enforcement source, that police from surrounding areas, from Montgomery County, Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland, Virginia State Police, have all been called in by MPD to help them with these overwhelming crowds, the chaos and the anarchy that's taking place right now.
Horrible, horrible news. Blood now spilled. We don't know any more details about it. But again, this is violence that has been inspired by President Trump, by President Trump's supporters, by Senator Cruz, by Senator Hawley, by the more than 100 members of the House who were objecting to the constitutional responsibilities, the fact that Joe Biden was elected. It is an absolutely disgraceful moment in American history, and there are specific villains who are responsible for it. I want to go to Manu Raju right now. Manu, tell us more about what you're seeing on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, well, possible good news on the Senate side of the Capitol. Our colleague Ted Barrett has been told by police officers on the Senate side that it has been cleared of rioters, of protesters, of demonstrators. The Senate floor, there's debris on the Senate floor because that was breached by protesters, but there's
thousands of armed protesters who happen to all be Trump supporters, who are mostly not Black Lives Matter protesters. They're mostly white, and they're storming the Capitol with violence. Someone has been shot. Glass is being broken. Lawmakers are in lockdown wearing gas masks. And it's looking at these pictures, where's law enforcement? Capitol Police struggling to control this, and you don't hear the president saying, we are sending reinforcement. You don't.
All of the unbelievable tweeting and inciting of violence that he has done, both at rallies and on social media. He got Well, first of all, look at this. It's getting violent outside. But
I think these
that the president even wants to do that. But we do know that the people around him are wanting to do that. They want to stop this from happening.
What I want to ask is, because I saw conservative commentator Jonah Goldberg, who is a critic of President Trump,
Yeah.
Because he's somebody who actually cares about conservative values. Jonah tweeted something about the 25th Amendment, which is when a president is not capable of carrying out his constitutional duties, the cabinet gets together and basically removes him from power. And I'm wondering if, I don't think he would tweet something like that lightly. I know he wouldn't. And when you're looking at what's going on, the violence going on the U.S. Capitol right now, something we have never seen in the United States, I'm wondering whether or not that's something that the cabinet should consider. But we'll talk about that in 1 second. I want to go right now to the White House where Caitlin Collins is. And Caitlin, this is absolutely disgusting, and it is entirely President Trump's fault, aided.
Building. We believe it's the Capitol. Maybe it's an office building nearby. Chrissy Houlihan, a representative from Pennsylvania. Congresswoman, welcome to our ongoing coverage here. Can you tell us where you are?
Sure. I'm inside. Thank you for having me. I'm safe, and I'm inside of one of the several office buildings that House members have. I'm in the Longworth building.
What have you heard so far?
So I happen to be a former member of the Air Force.
Statement on what you were seeing happening right now.
I wonder if there is anybody with a conscience in the cabinet who is considering doing anything to stop this, because this is a nation of laws, and there is a provision in the Constitution, the 25th Amendment, to step in when the president is not capable of governing. Let me go to Jim Acosta right now. Jim, what are you hearing from people inside the White House? This is an absolutely revolting, in both senses of the word, display. And it is President Trump inspired this, encouraged this, is not stopping it, is entirely responsible.
Oh, he's totally responsible, Jake, no question about it. I should point out in just the last minute, Kayleigh McEnany, the outgoing White House press secretary, she just put out a tweet saying that the president, at his direction, has ordered the National Guard over to the U.S. Capitol to get control of the situation. Her tweet says the National Guard is on the way along with other federal protective services. We reiterate President Trump's call against violence and to remain peaceful. That is the totality of that tweet from the White House press secretary, Jake. But I will tell you, this is not sufficient. As you know, Jake, we have a White House briefing room. It has lights, it has cameras, it has people ready for the President of the United States or the White House press secretary or the chief of staff at the very least to come in and call for calm. That is not happening. They're putting out tweets. That's it. That is the entirety of their response at this point, and it's just insufficient. I walked up to the upper press area of the West Wing just a short time ago. That's where the press secretary has her office, other staffers on the comm staff and so on. These young press aides, they're the last ones who are here. They're sort of the dead enders of the Trump administration. They seem dumbstruck. They seem shell-shocked. Looking at their faces, they just don't seem to understand what is unfolding around them. And it is astonishing. I will tell you, I've never seen anything quite like it in my 8 years covering the White House. A White House staff that appears to be immobilized, incapable of dealing with the situation. And as Caitlin was just saying, part of the reason why is because the president is just watching this on TV. He is now a spectator of the destruction that he has unleashed. He is not acting as a commander-in-chief anymore. He is just a television viewer-in-chief. watching all of this unfold. And it's disgraceful. It's just one of the most disgraceful things I think we're ever going to witness in our lives.
No.
Who was relieved of his duties about a year ago, sent out this message. This is not MAGA. We are not Antifa and the left. We should do it the correct way. Leave the Capitol and stop. The world is laughing at us. Live to fight in elections in the future. Save this country by growing our base and winning elections. End of message from Pascal. Griff Jenkins on the street. Griff, what are you saying?
Hey, Bill, we're here at 3rd Street. You can see the Capitol behind me, the West Front. And a lot of people, as we see, are leaving. But I got to tell you, in talking to the folks here about what's happening, I said, is this
what happened then, how the reaction would have been different. Senator Santorum, you worked in, the Senate building. Seeing these images, what do you think?
Well, it's heartbreaking. I understand people's anger. I understand a lot of people feel that the country is at stake. But what I don't understand is how people have lost faith in our country to the point where they feel they have to do things like this. That somehow or another that there's just no other opportunity to deal with the challenges that we have in front of us other than to storm the Capitol building. That is considered to be a rational act by people who say they love America. If you love America, you understand the greatness of our country is the great institutions we have, and you defend those institutions. You defend our Constitution. You don't try to overturn through violence and protest the things that you say you value. And so I see what's going on here. I see people breaking into the Capitol and breaking into the Senate chamber, and all because they think that their country is being taken away from them. I would just say that you are adding to the hopelessness of people, and you're not doing anything to restore the greatness of America by tearing it down.
Then,
so it's.
Then we hear a lot of talk about, the understandably they are grieved. There have been generations of people in this country who have not had rights, who have not had the right to vote, who have not had the right to marry, who have not had the equality that most of us are able to take for granted because of the zip code we were born in and the color of our skin, or our status in society. And so the idea that these people feel themselves so aggrieved, I mean, there were generations of people who actually had real grievances. These are wannabe weekend warriors who are all just hopped up and filled with self-righteous indignation based on lies.
This is treason. This is treason. This is insurrection. This is rebellion. Period. I have heard people looking at small protests in Portland, Oregon, where people were tear gassed, beaten, kidnapped. And they said, no. Whatever you do to those protesters is okay, because we have to have law and order. We have to have law and order. This is rebellion. It is treason. It is lawlessness. It is unacceptable. And we are on a glide path at this point to having to look down the barrel of possible civil war. When all the things we talk about up here sound so abstract, when we talk about the peaceful transfer of power, it just sounds like something from a book. This is what it looks like when you don't have a peaceful transfer of power. Abraham Lincoln talked about some people want rule or ruin. If I can't have it my way, I'll burn the whole country down. If I can't have it my way, I will burn the country down. So now I don't think that Republicans and conservatives can look at this and say this is okay. I'm calling on all of my conservative friends my Republican friends, to say, what would I do if Black Lives Matter dropped 30,000 black people on the nation's capital and laid siege to the seat of power in the middle of a joint session of Congress and broke in? What would I say if Black Lives Matter do that? I'm going to say that right now. What would, if Muslims did it? If Muslims dropped 30,000 Muslims on the seat of government in the middle of a joint session of Congress and ran in there and there was blood on the floor and tear gas, what would we be saying? If you believe that we are all one people, you don't like the hyphenations. If you believe that we're all one country, if you believe in law and order, if you're against traitors, if you are for patriotism, there needs to be a uniform denunciation from top to bottom of the Republican Party of what we're seeing. And the last thing I just want to say is this. You know, for Keisha Lance Bottoms, a black woman who was a mayor of Atlanta, when they started rioting in Atlanta, she stood up and she said, you stop it. You don't do this in Atlanta. You don't do this in America. She stood up to her base and told them to go home. Where is the President of the United States? Where is Donald Trump? Show the wisdom and the intelligence and the strength of a black woman mayor of Atlanta in the middle of this riot, and then we can get someplace.
Yeah, the difference here is that the mayor did not incite the riot.
That's right.
And the President of the United States did. Rick, I really respect what you said, but I don't understand how you don't understand how we got here. We know how we got here. We know that words matter. And when the President of the United States says again and again and again that these institutions are corrupt, they're rigged, the election was fraudulent, they're stealing it from you, when he goes out and addresses these very people today and tells them that they have to be strong and urges them to march down to the Capitol, I don't understand how you don't understand how this happened. We know how it happened. And he is culpable for this. You know, Winston Churchill said, dictators ride to and fro upon tigers which they dare not dismount, and the tigers are getting hungry. The president sits in the White House, and the tigers are loose at the Capitol. Let me just say one more thing, Gloria. I am the son of an immigrant who fled a country because of scenes like this and came to the United States because this was a country of law. This is a country of laws, and many of us share that story. I am in tears today to see this scene. This is not an American scene, and this was not a necessary scene. And I understand completely why it happened.
Gloria?
I'm heartbroken. I spent 10 years walking up and down those steps, covering
the reports now of the woman who was shot. But aside from the things that were broken getting into the Capitol in terms of doors, they say there is no vandalism taking place. This is people sending a message. And again, I'm just reflecting their viewpoints and the people and what people.
security breach is unacceptable, etc. But she called them American patriots. That is not what I call them. These are people who march there to do damage. And they march there to do damage in the middle of a constitutional session in which a presidential election, free and fair, was being certified. And you have to go back to what the president, this is what David is talking about, what the president said earlier today in his speech. And he said, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. We're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, the ones who support him. We're probably not going to be cheering because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong. So we'll walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. And that was permission. That was permission.
And as we speak, the man who is responsible for all of this, Donald J. Trump, is in the White House watching this on TV, as he has been for much of his administration, both a president and just an observer watching these moments pass by. And this is all part of his grift. These people have stormed the Capitol, have threatened our democracy, have spurred insurrection and treason in order for a grift that's going on being centered in the White House. The grift of the Trump family raising money off of this, raising money off these lies. And the president is just standing there watching it on television, surrounded by his coterie of enablers. I want to go back to Wolf.
It's hard to believe, Anderson, what's going on here in the United States Capitol right now. I've been around here for a long time. I've never seen anything like this. I never thought I would see an armed mob like this break windows and get into the United States Capitol and do what they're doing. And you can see what's going on. These individuals, they should.
Now, there are other images out there with protesters. Empty chamber with fist raised and shouting Trump won the election. Well, this image of this gentleman, we don't know where he's from. We don't know, have an identity on him, but he made his way to the speaker's lobby to find his way into Nancy Pelosi's office. I mentioned this image a short, here it is on screen now. This is where you would find Mitch McConnell and others on the dais of the U.S. Senate, and that was the image from about 60 minutes ago. To Chad Pergram, trying to find whether or not we can restore order. Chad, about an hour and 10 minutes from sundown there in our nation's capital. Do you see any semblance of that order arriving now?
So far, not. This is the balancing act that Capitol Police, have to walk. They're used to these demonstrations and things. And we've just had a statement here from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and from Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader. They are calling on President Trump to demand that all protesters leave the U.S. Capitol and the Capitol grounds immediately. They try to have these debates above the fray. And once you have the fray get into the building. You can certainly protest outside. You can call your member's office. You can certainly, write letters and emails and things. But what has happened here is you have had a breach here. The idea that someone was shot inside the Capitol. We've had those types of instances before. There were Puerto Rican nationalists who shot up the House chamber in 1954, wounding a couple of members, and you had members diving under the desk. There's still a bullet hole up in the upper gallery, the press gallery, and the public viewing gallery, where some of those pictures were from earlier there, Bill, that still exists from that shootout in the House chamber, and then remarkable images of people being brought on stretchers down the House steps. I mean, we haven't seen anything probably like that since 1954. You had two officers.
Sort of massive law enforcement footprint that Tom Winter was talking about. We know Virginia is now sending in some of their National Guard and state troopers. The governor of Maryland just tweeted a few minutes ago that he's sending in some Maryland state troopers. And you can see, the full force of the D.C. Metropolitan Police, of which every officer, I was told this morning, has been called up for duty today, are arriving here. And you're just starting to get a little bit of a sense here that this has been somewhat controlled, at least on the outside here. More and more of these rioters seem to be leaving the Capitol property. From where I can stand on the Russell balcony, I'm seeing groups of them, in the 5s and 10s starting to frankly apparently lose interest and leave here. But there's still that core group standing on top of the stairs. I'm in contact with some lawmakers. They're essentially all still locked down, not revealing their locations. And everyone here is just kind of waiting this out at this point as this additional law enforcement presence continues to gather. The city of D.C., by the way,
all of this go on from the White House, but has not come out to the podium. He has not gone on any television or in front of cameras to say that these people, that his supporters waving his flags and wearing his paraphernalia, need to get out of the building. Instead, he told them to remain peaceful, which of course, Wolf, they are not. But instead, the president himself has been more focused on what Pence did before all of this broke out than what is actually going on now.
It's really an awful, awful situation that the president of the United States is totally neglecting his responsibilities as the commander-in-chief. He's got enormous responsibilities. He's got 14 days left. He only cares about himself. John King, what does that say to you, that we have a president here in Washington, D.C., only 14 days left, but clearly has only one thing in mind: how can he overturn a democratically held election in the United States?
the Capitol. This is going to take probably 3-4 hours to clear out people from there, and then you're going to see a lockdown like you haven't seen before of the United States Capitol. These are not, at the request of the D.C. mayor, are not federalized troops.
For that, more information from our Fox team in D.C. ATF officers currently inside the Capitol building searching for protesters. We spoke with a few ATF officers confirming that information. Chad Pergram now reporting Capitol Police staff, due to ongoing police activity and a continued security threat inside the building, continue to do the following. And it's a long list.
Actually walked up the steps on both the House side, on the Senate side, and the center steps, and then we're willing to break through the windows. Now, what's been going on inside the Capitol is a couple of things. The first priority for the Capitol Police and for law enforcement inside was to secure leadership, make sure they are in a safe place. I'm told they are in a safe place, the leadership as well as the Senate Pro Tem, Chuck Grassley. I'm also told that based on everything that I've been talking to up to this point, all lawmakers are safe as well. They are in an undisclosed location. We are going to keep it that way for the time being. Now, the process is what's been, I think, most unusual is the Capitol Police have tried to get their arms around Senate floor and trying to push the protesters into a single place. I'm not going to call them protesters, push the rioters, the trespassers into a single place where they can then escort them out of the Capitol. Slowly but surely, I'm told, they are making progress. I heard Manu report earlier. They believe the Senate floor is clear. I believe they're on the path to that on the House side as well. They are making progress with that. And it appears, according to my sources, that once that is complete, they will start to move in terms of what's going on the outside of the building. But Wolf, I will tell you right now, from my vantage point on the east side of the Capitol, you can still see the steps on the Senate side, on the House side, and the center steps. You guys have camera footage of it as well. Are still packed with individuals. Some of them still moving towards the doors right now. So, as the words of one source of mine inside the Capitol, this is not under control yet, but we feel like we're starting to get our arms around it. Obviously, it's a very, very fluid situation, and the most interesting thing are
must respect law enforcement officers and immediately leave the building. This is all coming after we had reports. One person has been shot in the Capitol. We heard that from House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who heard that on Capitol Police Radio, that shots had been fired. And we did later learn that someone has been shot. We don't know the status of that person or who that person was. So hopefully we'll get you that information as well. We're also watching here from Wilmington, Delaware as well, where we're expecting live remarks from President-elect Joe Biden on this situation. We'll bring those to you live here. My colleague Daytona Everett also read a statement from the press secretary of the White House, Kayleigh McEnany, who said the National Guard is on the way, along with other federal protective services. We reiterate President Trump's call against violence and to remain peaceful. And we just lost that shot. We apologize there. That went to black. This is a ground view. And just to give you a sense of where this is in the Capitol, this is the the west-facing front. And this is essentially the driveway where senators, this is the Senate side, where they come in and they drive under what's called the lamplight gate there to go into the chamber. I myself have stood out there many times waiting for senators to come out to get comments on legislation or what have you. Never have I seen anything like this. And we've also been following all of the responses to this on social media, the pictures people have been posting. Reporters are still there. Remember, the Capitol's on lockdown. People cannot leave or enter. And remember, this process still needs to play out constitutionally. The joint session of Congress needs to take place still for Congress to certify the electors, the slates of electors from the states. Normally in years past, this process merely takes 30 to 40 minutes. You remember back in 2017, after the 2016 election, then Vice President Joe Biden presided over the chamber. You remember in the year 2000, in the 2000 election, afterward in 2001, the loser of that election, then Vice President Al Gore, presided over this process, even as the loser of the election. You remember in 1961, Richard Nixon, then Vice President.
You're breaking up a little, but
Thank you, Laura. Laura Ingraham, we'll see you a bit later this evening, and we'll see where we are then, 6 hours from now. Thank you, Laura. Got a statement from the Attorney General, Bill Barr. He writes the following. It is short and it's to the point. Quote, the violence at the Capitol